We are going live early today. Morning, guys. My entire my entire OBS just broke. Everything's broken. I wake up, there's not a single scene on my screen. Everything's just disappeared. So we're going raw today. Welcome back, everyone. We'll hang out for a few minutes because we're starting a little bit earlier than normal. But yeah, woke up. The beginning screen, the ending screen, the charts, it's all gone. For whatever reason. Technology, man. Morning, guys. Welcome back. We're starting a little bit early today. But that's all right. We'll wait for everyone to jump in here. OBS is, I don't know, man. It's very unreliable. We could sing. Yeah, we could sing. Maybe I'll create a scene with just my face here. Hold on a second. Whatever. I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. Morning, guys. Rangers, yeah, sucks, man. Almost had them. That would have been big to go up 3-1 yesterday. That would have been a big game there. How's the Starlink? Good, man. I'm loving it. It's the only downside I'd say is that it has to be outside, which is obvious, but yeah, like I got to run a cord from the backyard to the computer, to the router, so yeah. That's the only downside. Like if you had if you go in somewhere without a backyard and you don't have a balcony, you really can't use it. So that's the only downside I'd say, but the speed was great. The usability is great. Nvidia. Only up. Only up juice. Welcome back, guys. If you're popping in now, we started early today because my OBS just decided to not work today. And I basically had to start all the scenes from scratch. So we only have one scene today, and it's the one you're looking at. So a little bit of technical difficulties. Desi error. All right. Not a bad day yesterday. We actually caught some good. We'll go over them in a second. Caught some pretty decent dip buys, but didn't hold up all day, as you guys can see. Sort of flipped here later in the day or in the after hours pre-market this morning. How much Starlink? The hardware I think's about. I think I paid $500 for the hardware, and then you can choose the plan you get. So if the top plan, that's highest speed, I think is like $200 a month. If you really need that top speed. But there's some other plans that are cheaper. It's like similar to a Wi-Fi. You know, if you bought Wi-Fi, if you pay for Wi-Fi, pay for internet service, it's pretty similar to that. Yeah, Carvana was really nice. Ghost Rider, really nice catch on Carvana yesterday. I took profits on it relatively early. Probably could have held it a little bit more confidently. But a Carvana is still a watch, man. Still got more room in this gap, right? Go to this daily chart. Still got a little bit of room in this gap here, right? We got room towards right around that 94 level. Hold on, let me get my Demo Pro here. Let me get my Demo Pro. Demo Pro, where are ya? There it is. All right. So, yeah, we still got some room here to that 94, 95 area, I'd say. So definitely still a watch for that gap fill. We caught some of that yesterday, and I took profits. Obviously, I mean, I had 2 contracts, so made about $350. Could have been bigger, but Starlinks was down yesterday, and maybe later in the day. I didn't really use it later in the day, so interesting. I've never really seen Starlink down. That's crazy. Right when I buy it, right? All right, guys, let's get started. Yesterday, traded a few things. Number one, I traded Qualcomm off the gap fill long. That was a really nice trade yesterday. Took some longs here on Qualcomm at the retest and the gap fill level. So we had that gap fill we were talking about. Came back down to that level. Took some longs down at that level, right? Had my stop loss below 211. And nice little scalp there yesterday. I took about 3/4 of the trade off on the upside move. Did hold some into today. So it looks like I'm going to give back some profits on that today, unfortunately. But, you know, man, that's how I trade, right? That's how I extend my wins. I have to continue to do what I do. You know, sometimes I get that continuation. Sometimes I don't. But the key here is to scale out as you get the win. And if you are going to swing trade something in some uncertainty, then make sure it's not the full size, right? That's all we can do. That's risk management, okay? That's risk management 101, right? We get a 10, 15, 20, 30% trade off demand. We want to be scalping out, right? Taking some profits. If we do decide to swing, let's make sure it's some lighter size, which I did. And looks like I'll give back a little bit of profit on that this morning. It is what it is. That's trading right there. We're going to give back some trades. We're going to try to hold out for a little bit more juice. And sometimes we just don't quite get it. SMCI was another one that we scalped long, took profits, and I did swing trade a little bit as well. So pretty much the theme here today is I took really good entries yesterday, scalped off profits, and then held some runners that will stop me out today, it looks like. We took some longs on SMCI yesterday at that 870 level. We talked about that 870 level, scaled some profits off into this push. I actually scaled out on the push over 900, which ended up being like the high a day, which was pretty crazy. So it was right here. Took half off there, held the runners, and looks like I'll get stopped out on the remainder of those today, as SMCI is under 870. So that's another one. The other trade that I took was Enphase. This is one that I did not take any profits on and still holding full size. Might be something I take a loss on today. Going to be watching that 127 level today very closely. So those are really the 3 trades I took yesterday. I took a little $300 YOLO on Kava, which ended up being probably dead today. But Kava, really good numbers. So I'm going to talk about this later in the stream. Really good numbers here on Kava. They beat expectations on EPS. They doubled the expectation on EPS. They beat sales. They raised their 2024 guidance. And they are getting some pretty decent upgrades this morning, right? They're getting Morgan Stanley upgrades, JP Morgan upgrades, Citigroup upgrades, Loop Capital upgrades, Baird upgrades, TD Cowen upgrades. So upgrades across the board here on Kava this morning. I am not worried that much about this little downside here on Kava post earnings. Numbers were great, guidance was great, and you're getting some pretty interesting upgrades this morning. So Kava is definitely still a watch for me today. After this little earnings pullback. Definitely a watch still. So that was my day yesterday. It was a pretty bland day. I took it pretty light. I am traveling, guys, so I don't like to trade that heavy when I travel. I don't know if you guys saw the podcast with the boys, with Carmine, with Jadon, with Rake, with all those guys. They talked about traveling and trading and how if you're doing it, man, there's really no reason to take such large size. So that's really what I'm sticking to, right? I'm going to scale down, stay low, stay sort of chill. I took a decent amount of positions yesterday, but I did keep them all relatively light. So it's about $1,000 day, but probably going to give back a little bit of that today on some of these swings. So that was my day yesterday in a nutshell. Let's start it up. If you guys could, before I get started, please smash that like button for me. That would be fantastic. I'd love that. Very much appreciated there. If you guys could help support the channel, help support the stream, keep the stream alive, keep the lights on here. All you gotta do is press the like button. That's really it. So if you guys could, please, that would be great. And here we go. So today, economic calendar. Today's Wednesday. You guys can see right here. Not that much. Richmond Manufacturing Index, 10 o'clock, 145. You got an FOMC member speaking. Beige Book at 2 o'clock. And then another FOMC member speaking at 7 o'clock. So not too much there on the economic side. Tomorrow is probably your biggest day of the week in terms of economic events. You got your GDP number. You got your unemployment claims. This is both pre-market. So today, probably not the best day to swing trade, right? Because you got some pretty major events in the pre-market tomorrow that could sort of flip whatever you're looking for, right? You don't quite know. So keep an eye on this Thursday. You got GDP, you got unemployment claims. 10 o'clock, you got pending home sales. And then Friday, we end the week with PCE price index, personal income, personal spending. All right? Did something kill the market this morning? No, I would just say the market rejected some key supply levels, and we'll go over that right now. Let's go quickly into let me see if there's any earnings that I want to point out here for you guys this morning. Earnings tonight. Let's go ahead and pull that up real quick. Why not? So here we go. Here's the earnings calendar. We can see yesterday was Kava. Today we do have Abercrombie & Fitch, Chewy, Dick's Sporting Goods in the pre-market, Advanced Auto Parts in the pre-market. We got CRM Salesforce tonight. That's an interesting one. C3.ai, UiPath as well. Tomorrow, Costco and Dell. Dell was another nice name yesterday that we got that pullback long off of. Really clean there. Actually, I'm interested in seeing what A&F did on earnings. A&F still holding up, man. A&F is one of the craziest runs of this year, as of late at least. I mean, this has been a crazy run for Abercrombie & Fitch. What a company to turn around their name. Because actually really it's since 2023. Wow. I don't know. I guess Abercrombie, I'm not in that game anymore. I'm not in high school anymore, so I don't quite understand it. I did maybe understand how hot Abercrombie was in high school. Because I was wearing Abercrombie back then, and don't lie to me, you did too. But yeah, I guess I'm not so in tune with how much they've turned around their company. Pretty good. EPS beat, sales beat, increases full year outlook. Nice. I mean, great numbers, and a pretty reputable turnaround there for A&F. Pretty crazy. Because at one point, I thought that was a dying company, to be quite honest. All right. Let's get this started. So, Nasdaq. The level that we talked about yesterday, that 18,930 level. We talked about this level yesterday. We talked about how this was going to be a pretty difficult level for us to get above. Now, let me go into the 30-minute chart, and let me talk about why we had 18,930. So, here we go. So 18,930 yesterday, we came into the day and we said, okay, if we are under these lows, right? It was this low here, this high. If we're under this high, we're going to have some trouble at this level, right? And we saw all day the Nasdaq have trouble at that level. Pretty much all day, we could not get above that 18,930 level. So that was very key, right? A lot of failure to move higher. In the after hours, we got that little pop into 18,970, and you can see just sort of a rejection, right? Nothing crazy, just a very textbook sort of supply rejection up here, previous highs, very clear level here at 930. And we can see just the overall inability to get higher in this zone, right? This is our little zone here, and we can see every time the Nasdaq pushed up into this 930, 970 level, it's about a 50-point zone. Every time we pushed into this bright red area here, the market just sort of sold, right? We got sellers stepping in, pushing this thing down. So that was pretty much in a nutshell what happened yesterday. On the drops, we did hold our demand. Yesterday, we came into the day and we talked about this demand right here, that 18,840. We did hold that demand pretty much all day. And this was actually the long that I took yesterday, right? So if I go to the 5-minute chart, this was the long that we took yesterday in the chat. It was off that 18,840 demand level. It was right here. So we had that morning downside, right into that demand level, which we had marked out yesterday. We started to see that hold, and this is where I started to long some names. So I was pretty much longing this area on the market yesterday. This was where I entered Qualcomm, entered SMCI, entered all the swing, all the longs that I took. Was pretty much after we had, and I'll actually show you the exact candle that I took longs on because I vividly remember it. It was this candle right here. So this was a very key, and this is actually a good little education here. This was a very key flip at that 10 o'clock candle on that data. You can see, right, we had a move down into our demand, right? We started to see some willingness to hold. We started to see that willingness to hold. We had a failed attempt lower, right? We tried to move lower, but we failed that attempt lower. And right here was where I started to go long, right? Because I knew at that point, I can now risk these lows, right? I can now risk these lows after seeing a confirmation that the market was defending that 18,840, went long, sort of held out for some continuation, which was pretty nice. So that was really my day yesterday. Long here on that failed attempt lower off 18,840 on the Nasdaq futures. Now today, here's the problem, right? Here's the problem, and here's why I think you could see more downside. The real reason why I think you could see more downside today is right here, right? If we reject 18,840 today, if we turn yesterday's lows into a rejection point, that is bearish, okay, in the short term. So if we see this level, these lows, and yesterday's lows at 18,840 turn into a rejection point, then what do we look for, right? We look for that break and retest rejection and look for further downside, which I believe would come down into that 18,740, okay? Why 18,740? Well, like we talked about yesterday, we talked about this in detail yesterday. If you get straight up, you can get straight down, right? We went straight up on Friday of last week. Off of the 18,740, you can see we went straight up, okay? Now, if we reject this 840 today, I would expect that move to continue towards that 740 once again. So that's the big watch right now. Let's go into the short-term time frames, and let's look at this 5-minute chart, right? This is the big watch right now. Yesterday's lows, right there, right? Yesterday's lows, yesterday's lows. Look at what's starting to happen here, okay? If we cannot reclaim this level, there is really no reason to look long this morning in the short term, okay? If we're seeing this turn into a rejection today, we do not want to long on a failure back into yesterday's lows, right? We do not want to be long here, see this previous day low fail, right, and then get stuck in that downside move. So if we continue to see that weakness today under yesterday's lows, let's look for the downside continuation. I would say into right here, 18,740 is where I'd look for that move. Now, if we get back above, right, and we do see the reclaim today, then we could be right back in this move, okay? That's very important to realize. If we do reclaim yesterday's lows and we do get back above today and you start to see that hold coming in, then we're going to have to look for that long entry, possibly for that move back up into that 930 area. All right, so everything, in my opinion, is riding off of yesterday's lows here on the Nasdaq futures. Very, very key watch today, guys. Make sure you're paying attention to that. 18,800. I mean, you can see the double bottom coming in, right? But I would not trust 18,800 longs if we're below yesterday's lows, right? Shashi. Right, I'm not going to long 18.8 right into yesterday's lows and then get this, right? So if, we could say 18.8 is holding, right? We can see that. We can see that 18.8. We can extend that to the left. We'll get an idea if there's anything really there. Let's go to the hourly chart. I mean, there's a little action at 18.8, right? 18.8, 18.8. There's some action there. So you can keep that on your charts at 18.8, but I think more important than 18.8 is this 18.840, which is yesterday's lows, right? So I need to get back above these lows, and if I can, and I can reclaim, then maybe I'll look for that move. So that's going to be key, all right? All about that low. QQQ. QQQ actually holding a very key level here. This is our 456.30 level. Now let me show you why I have 456.30 on my charts. Actually, I'm going to go to the 15-minute chart. This will show it a little bit better. So QQQ, 456.30. I know a little bit of a strange level, but it is a level, and I'll show you why. So if we zoom in over here to the left, right, look at this right here. This is Thursday of last week, 456.30. This is these highs from Wednesday of last week as well, right in that general area, 456.30. I think that is, I mean, that was my level, and it's being confirmed right now, right? I'm getting a little bit of confirmation that my level is correct right now at 456.30 on the QQQ, because that is where we're holding as of right now. So that's going to be something to watch today. That's this low right here. Let me go ahead and zoom in on that low. That's Thursday. So I'll go to Thursday here, and you can see right here, okay? This is Thursday of last week when we had that aggressive downside. You see this right here? This level that held intraday. This is the 2-minute chart on the QQQ back on Thursday of last week. Look at that hold at 456.30. That was where we ultimately, and then look how clean this was, right? Look how clean this was. So you had your hold, right, and a little bit of relief on Thursday, but then look at this right here. Look how clean this was on Thursday. Look at that candle. Did you just look at it, right? Just take a look at it. Look at how well that level failed, rejected, and continued lower, right? So there was a lot of interest at that 456.30 level, both to the downside rejection and to the upside support on Thursday of last week. So now, look at where we're sitting, right? Exact same level. Boom, right? Exact same level. So if we're going to be above that level today, there's some reason to be careful to the downside, right? We want to be slightly cautious there. If we're going to look to short today, then let's not just short right into this, right? Let's not take shorts into the QQQ 456.30, right? Because if we do that, we're exposing ourselves to one of these, right? We're exposing ourselves to one of these moves, and then just sort of that push back higher. So let's be careful there. 456.30. If we get that break and hold below, then I think we can look for that downside continuation. That's pretty clear today. And that downside continuation, in my eyes, would move into 450, right? Because that is that straight up move from Friday of last week, right? It is important, Victor. I said it is important. The reason I said it's something to be cautious of is because if you long that level today, right? If you long 18.8 and you're just saying, oh, I'm long 18.8, you are longing into these lows. So there's no there's no game plan off this level. I'm not going to take action off that level. Why? Because one, I'm not going to long it, okay? Definitely not going to long it off 18.8. Why is that? Because we talked about the lows, and we don't want to long into lows, right? And then I'm not going to short this level because we're seeing that hold come in, right? So there's really there's nothing to look for here off 18.8 in the short term. If you get a break under 18.8, then that's a break under that QQQ level, all right? If you get a break under 18.8, then it probably corresponds with a break under 456.30, okay? So then you can probably have some confirmation that that downside can come in. But in the short term, right, I got asked if 18.8 support is important. You know, it's important, but I'm not going to long off of it. That's all I said. I said I will not long off 18.8. Doesn't mean it's not important, but it's not a long. Why is it not a long? Because what I just explained. If you are going too long right into yesterday's lows, you are asking to get can't say that. You're asking to get messed up, right? 18.840. You don't want to long into that, okay? You do not want to long into 18.840. That's longing back into these lows. That's not good. So it's important, but it's not a long. And the reason for that is because of yesterday's lows on the Nasdaq futures. And then yesterday's lows on the QQQ, I would say, is right around that 457, okay? 457, right in there, is where you probably want to be careful of the longs on the QQQ, right? 457. So 457, 457, 457. You probably want to be careful there at 457. So tight range there, right? Tight range. 457, 456.30. If we break under these lows, then like I said, downside continuation. If we get back above 457, or we get back above that 18.840, then we can look for that upside reclaim, right? So, I mean, hopefully that makes sense. That's pretty clear. Those levels line up pretty damn well. All right, ES. ES. 52.85 was one of our levels yesterday, right? And so was our 53.40. We had our 53.40, 53.50 zone. We talked about that 10-point zone up above. We said there could be multiple rejections up there, and we did the exact same thing yesterday, right? Our 53.40, 53.50 level from yesterday was the rejection zone of the day, right? Rejection, 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 yesterday, rejection. So we can definitely say there's a lot of selling going on up there at that 53.40, 53.50. We want to be careful of that sort of failure to move higher on the ES. Now today, let me go ahead and zoom out. There are some key levels below that I want to make sure you're paying attention to here. Let me go ahead and move this lower. There we go. So the levels for me today, number one is this 52.85. And then number two is this major 52.70, 52.65 down here. So you can see this was that Wednesday straight up move that we talked about, and sort of that straight up, straight down, and we're coming back down into that level. All right, this is going to be big. 52.70, 52.65. That is definitely an important level here on the ES. So if we do drop into this today, be careful of that sort of holding up. So if you're short intraday today and you're watching the market and you see the ES is down here, I would be slightly cautious of that level maintaining. Now the next level that is immediate, in the immediate short term, is right here on the 15-minute chart. So you can see right here on the 15-minute chart, there and here. So that is our immediate watch as of this morning. As of open today, I'd say if we remain above it, 52.85, 52.86 is this low from Friday, and sort of this reclaim from Thursday after hours, 52.85. That's something to watch. If we fail below that, then I think you're going to move down into the 70. If we fail under the 52.85, okay? What I would like to see more than anything today, and I think probably the cleanest rejection, cleanest downside play for you today, is a break and retest of 53.10 right here. 53.10, 53.10, 53.10. Tried to hold it yesterday, 53.10. We failed it here in the pre-market. If we can get a pop back up into 53.10, this would be the short that I would look for today, right here. If we can get a retest rejection of 53.10, then I would love to look for that short today. Right here would be a great short entry in my opinion. You have the previous lows, previous lows, previous lows, previous lows from yesterday. If we can get that upside move early morning, start to see that potentially fade here, that could be very nice. So that's something I would definitely watch today, the 53.10 on the ES, if we do get an upside move off of the 52.85, okay? If we just fail under the 52.85 today, then we will get that downside continuation towards 52.70. 20 SMA nearby, yep, and probably the next long entry, to be honest. JC, right? The 20 SMA is catching up to price action, and we've talked about this, right? We've talked about how sometimes, price action consolidates and the moving averages catch up to it. Sort of a time correction in a way. A time correction, I think, is something you're possibly seeing right now in the ES. If that 20 SMA does support the ES once again, it's just going to be a little bit of consolidation until that 20 SMA catches up. So that's something I'll keep an eye out, definitely, JC. Good point out there. So that's the ES, right? We got some clear levels, 52.85, 52.86, and then we got that 53.10 level. You have your channel here today, and you're going to want to look to short here, and then if the market can stay strong early morning, you can look for that 52.85 long. SPY. Here's the SPY. Here's the hourly. Let me zoom in if TOS would allow me. Sometimes it doesn't like me to. Okay, so here is my concern on the SPY today. There's a pretty clear rejection possibility here on the SPY right now. And definitely something that I'll be paying attention to very closely for maybe some short-term downside this morning It's right here at 527.50 and that 527 zone. Why is that? Well, we can see it very clear, right? You can see previous lows, and yesterday's lows at 527.50, right? There's some major rejection. There's some major previous support here. And as of right now, it looks to me like this is starting to reject. It's anywhere from 527.50 to 527. It's all in this 50 cent zone, right? We can start to see this turning into a rejection this morning. If we do not get back above this 527.50, 527 zone, I think downside is the correct answer here in the short term. Why is that? I'll explain that once again. Here's the 30-minute chart. And we have some very clear previous lows in this red zone right here. Previous low, a very strong hold there on Friday of last week, and a strong hold here yesterday. Okay, every time we came back to this level in the past, over the last week and a half, we pushed higher. Now today, there is a flip here, right? It's something to pay attention to. There's a very clear flip from this being a support area to now this becoming a potential rejection area, okay? And if we stay under this, the likelihood for me, in my opinion, is that we trade back down to 525, possibly even back down to that 523, right? This is probably the cleanest read right now on the market, is this SPY 527, 527.50 zone, right? So I take all these levels and I sort of build a plan behind them. What's the cleanest? What's the clearest, right? What are the things I can play off of? Well, right now, I can visibly see, one, the QQQ is under 457, right? Rejecting that level. If we break under that 456.30 and we break under that Nasdaq future 18.8, right? And we can see right now the Nasdaq is still rejecting that 18.840. If we stay under those levels, then I'll sort of be looking, all right, SPY is still under this level as well, and I might be able to play that SPY rejection here to the downside, right? So definitely keep an eye on this 527, 527.50 here today. This would be a really clean rejection. It really would. I would love to see follow-through off a move like this. You know, sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't, but that is a very clear rejection under those lows. A downside trade towards 525 would make a lot of sense here. Something I definitely would be watching today. All right. Hopefully that game plan helps. If you guys could, please take a second, press the like button. The Dow Jones has been getting, sort of looks like Daniel Jones right now. The stock of Daniel Jones is what the Dow Jones looks like. Going down. So Dow Jones was pretty hot, was really strong, and looks like it's just retracing a little bit. The Dow is now back under a very key support level. 38,880, guys. Very weak here on the Dow. That's a big breakdown on the Dow. To be honest, when you look at this 4-hour chart, I don't see that much solid support here on the Dow. I mean, I don't really like any of this support, right? It's really not a key, you know, sort of a shelf. You can where was the last shelf sort of created? I think right here, right? That's a very clear shelf right there on the Dow. You can see once it broke under that, every time the Dow in the past month and a half, every time the Dow broke back under 38,880 right here and right here, it came down the channel lows, which is 37.8, right? So if the Dow starts living under this 38,880, I'm not opposed to thinking that that could continue lower back towards this demand low, right? Where has it, you know, every single time it's sort of faded down lower, right? Both times it went under this 38,880, right? It faded down to 37.8, right? So why not again? So that's something a little bit concerning there in the Dow. That 38,880 I think is a big break here. Something I'd be watching. Russell Wilson. What a beautiful rejection. Wow. What a beautiful rejection. So yesterday we talked about that 2090, right? Did we not? 2090. We talked about that 2090, 2100. Rejections yesterday. Look at that downside. Beautiful. Beautiful move. And I think you're coming down into the 2035 right here. That looks to be the move. 2035, 2035. I think you're targeting that 2035. What a beautiful rejection this is on the Russell yesterday of that exact supply zone that we had. Really, really, really nice. All right. Before we get into some stocks, how many likes we got here today? All right, not doing too bad. We got 1,800 people, 700 likes. Appreciate that, guys. Let's get into some stocks here. Tesla. I mean, yesterday it sort of did what we talked about, right? It did that 173 demand hold and created a pretty nice long, right? We talked about, hey, yesterday we came into the day, this was our game plan on Tesla. We said, do not trade Tesla unless it's at a key level, right? That's number one. Do not trade Tesla unless it's at a key level. So we said, all right, let's look for shorts up at 182. Let's look for longs off 173. And yesterday, that was pretty much that was a pretty decent trade yesterday, right? We popped right down into the 173. Look at that hold, and look at that sort of long continuation for you on a little bit of a scalp trade. So really nice, all right? Big drop, right into demand, right into a key level, and a upside continuation on Tesla for that short-term trade. Now today, we're coming back down into that 173. Now, the reason why 173, why you maybe could have caught Tesla off 173 yesterday was you actually got some confirmation of a few things, right? You got a confirmation that there was a failed attempt lower. You were able to set up that long. There's also a confirmation of the market moving higher, right? You had that market hold. Market doesn't look as strong today, okay? So would I be as interested in the long off 173 today? Not as interested. Why? Because that Nasdaq ES weakness, right? That ES downside that's coming in, that Nasdaq rejection of that 18,840. I don't love that to sort of set up long. So am I going to set up a long on Tesla at 173 if the market is showing rejections under previous day lows? Probably not, right? So be careful of that one today. I'd watch 173. You can keep an eye on it. If Tesla does break under 173, there could be some slippage to be had. So let's watch that 173 very closely today. Under 173, I think you could have a little, sort of knee-jerk reaction to the downside. That would be sort of a flush move, right? Under some major lows. That could really cause a little bit of a flush here on Tesla. Something I would watch. The only thing I'd watch if you are going to short Tesla today is watch out for that daily 50 below, okay? Might have a little bit of support step up at that daily 50 at 171, 171.70. Silver continue to rip. Yeah, silver's been strong. Commodities have been strong. Nvidia. So really strange what's going on, and I think it's making it a little bit difficult. Nvidia doesn't seem to care, right? It's just irrelevant. Nvidia was up all day. Pretty much all day, and markets were sideways to flat to possibly slight. You could call it down yesterday, really. So it's been a little bit tricky, right? Nvidia is just sort of going, and am I surprised? Not really. Really good earnings, stock split announcement. Am I surprised that the fade might just continue higher? No, I would not be surprised, but that's the danger, right? Because if you get too comfy in this thing, it could really smack you around. So that's why I didn't trade Nvidia yesterday. I couldn't wrap my head around longing Nvidia with the Nasdaq rejecting and seeing sort of weakness on the market. I would have had to put a lot of money into this trade, and I wasn't really interested in doing so. So I stayed away from it. Right? I didn't want to put $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in a trade yesterday. I wasn't in that mind space. I'm traveling, right? So I was like, all right, let me keep this. Let me stay away from Nvidia today. She's a spicy one, and I'm just going to let my shares ride. So shares look great. I'm very happy about the shares. That's fantastic. But she's a little tricky because it's a little bit disconnected from what the overall market's doing. And if anything, Nvidia is the only stock that's keeping the market higher, which is a little bit strange, right? Nvidia is pretty much like the guy with the globe on his shoulders as of right now. And every time Nvidia saw a little bit of weakness yesterday, you saw a very harsh reaction on the market. So something to spot. Every time Nvidia, if you go back and look at yesterday, every time Nvidia had a little bit of downside yesterday, there was a very aggressive downside move on the market. So that goes to show you that there is some concern there, right? Because if there is that day where Nvidia is down 3, 4, 5%, it's going to be an ugly day for the market, I'd say. So just be aware of that. Make sure you're prepared for that. There should be no surprises, right? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I am not saying that's going to happen, okay? I'm not out here trying to predict when the market tanks because of Nvidia. But I want to make sure you understand that concept, because that will happen. And if you're sort of shell-shocked, it's not going to be a good day for you. You need to know that if Nvidia is showing weakness, the market is going to show weakness. So make sure you understand that. So for now, I'm going to still trade the pullbacks, right? That's what I talked about yesterday, and I still think, look at what it did today. Nvidia pulled back into the 1120 level. Look at this hold again, right? Look at this hold again. So what am I going to look for today? I need pullbacks, right? I'm going to be very, very selective with when I enter Nvidia. That's just what I have a lot of shares. I'm making a lot of money on shares. If it continues to go higher, yesterday I made like $4,000 just on shares alone. So if it wants to keep going higher, I'm not going to trade options on it. That $4,000 on shares is more than I'd probably make on it with options without having to have that stress. This is just me being financially responsible. I know for YouTube and for everything else, I should be trying to make that content, trade Nvidia, but for me, being financially responsible at the end of the day, that's what's more important to me, is protecting my own capital. I'm just going to let it be, right? So what I'm going to be is very selective. 1120, that's something to watch. If we break under 1120, 1100, right? Under 1120, 1100. 2 pullback levels I'd be watching. Now, where I think Nvidia could start to get that weakness, where I think Nvidia could start to really slip, is under 1100, okay? Under 1100 is where I think you could get that gap fill, and that would be a move back to 1060. So under 1100, right? Then, let's look for that 1060 level, right? Under 1100, I think you can get that rejection and get that move to 1060. That's possible. But until then, you are not going to want to short Nvidia at 1120 or 1100, right? These are definitely potential hold levels to be looking for today. All right? AMD, another major fade on AMD. Major fade on AMD. Like, AMD might be the next pig with makeup. Tesla right now has pig with makeup, but I think AMD starting to put some makeup on. Because AMD has these days where you get really excited, right? Sort of like yesterday, and it gives back everything. That is what happened to me here, okay? You guys remember this last week. I had a really nice long on AMD. Took profits on it. Now sort of feeling good about that decision. Yesterday was a little uneasy about it. But the next day after that upside move into the supply, straight down, okay? And AMD is starting to show the exact same thing. Big 175 rejection. Failure back under 172, and giving back quite a bit of a move today. So I don't like AMD as of late. I just don't like the trade. It feels a little sketchy. It feels heavy. It feels like that upside just isn't quite there. That 172 rejection, 175 rejection, very clear yesterday. You can see right there. And to me, this is going to fade right back down to 165. That's looking like where it's going to fade to. So I'll look for that maybe fade today. I don't love where it's trading right inside this channel. You can see it's right smack dab in the middle of this channel. So I'm not too fond of that, right? What would I rather see? Maybe a little pop in rejection today, right? Maybe a little pop back into 172 and then a rejection there. Not at a key level for me, so really not a trade in the short term. But if I see some reactions at these key levels, I will definitely look for the fades at 172. TSM. So TSM breaking under 156 here in the pre-market. That's going to be a key watch now. So what we're going to have to do here is turn that red, because that is a break under a key level. So if TSM rejects 156 today, I'd say you can look for some downside here. Right here. 156. If that stays as weakness, I'd say you move right into 154. Okay, 154, maybe a 2-point drop there on TSM to watch. I'd be careful of shorting into 154 though. That is a interesting pullback long that you could be watching. So watch 154. That is definitely a support level there. Qualcomm. So Qualcomm under 211. That's important. Okay. Let's make sure that's red, because that's definitely an important rejection or important loss under 211. You can see right here. Under 211 is definitely important. I would look to see if that rejects today. That's number one. Previous highs, previous lows, we're under it, right? And yesterday, you can see we held it, right? So very clear flip here. Yesterday we held it. Today we're under it. Very clear flip on Qualcomm. So what do we look for? Pop back into 211 and look for that fail, right? That's a perfect look today. If we get that pop and fail, we're targeting 208. We're targeting right here, 208, 207.85. That high right there, that would be my target for that downside move. Now, where Qualcomm could get a little bit more interesting is if it does break below this 208. Because if Qualcomm breaks below this 208, then look at this. You're trading in straight up action. That could get a little bit more slippery there, right? This sort of looks like, not going to say it with too much confidence yet, but looks like one of those a little bit, right? You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. So something to watch there, right? 211, 208. If you can get a short at 211, I don't mind that trade, right? Because that's a trade based off very key levels. If you can get a short off 211, put a little stop loss above that level, you could look for that fade toward 208, and you can possibly look to maintain that level, maintain that short for more continuation under that 208 as well. So definitely watch that 211 today on Qualcomm. I like it. We already went TSM. Let's go SMCI. So SMCI coming back down. I think SMCI still looks great for this flag, but man, it just doesn't quite have the juice, right? It just doesn't quite have the juice. I've tried it off this 870 level. I got a nice scalp on it yesterday. Tried to hold it out for that sort of breakout move, but man, it just doesn't seem to have that juice. Unfortunate, because I think SMCI could be a really nice trade approaching, right? I definitely can foresee this 4-hour sort of flag that's building, but man, it might just not have that might not have that interest. So 4-hour, we still have this flag building, right? We can still sort of see this flagging move to the downside back into this very key 830 demand. I still see it. I still can foresee that of course, if semiconductors get hot again, that's going to be a necessity for that move, a prerequisite for that move. But for now, it's definitely stuck in this trend, right? It's definitely stuck in this downtrend. That's very clear. I would say SMCI possibly back to 830 here is where I'd look for it again, right, to see if it holds there. That looks like the major demand to watch below at 830. 870, if you can't reclaim 870 today, SMCI is going to stay weak. Okay, you can look for that short today. Watch 870 on SMCI today. If SMCI turns these lows into rejections today, there is definitely a fading move to watch for. Watch 870 SMCI today. Let's go to ARM. What a move yesterday over 120, huh? This is very interesting, actually. Interesting to both ways, because as much as I'd love to look for a long on ARM today off 120, I'm a little bit hesitant to do that because of the market, first of all, right? I'm a little hesitant because of that. But you can clearly see 120 was a major previous low. And today, and it was also a high here. And yesterday, if we go into the 2-minute chart, there was a beautiful hold right above 120 yesterday, right here on ARM, right? Look at this. Break and hold on 120 on ARM, and a really nice continuation on ARM yesterday. You're still above 120, okay? So you really can't short this thing still above 120. This is a very big level. I would continue to look to see if that strength does come in. If the market can flip back to the upside today, if we get one of those nasty flips back to the upside, then I would definitely be watching ARM at 120 today as a pullback long. If you fail back under that, okay, that's where it could get pretty spicy, I think. Now, why do I say that? Because that would be a major fail back below these lows right here, right? If you fail back below 120, I think it could be a pretty big failure, maybe back down to that 110. So big watch on 120 today on ARM. Definitely a big watch. Kava, we'll talk about that Kava move. Kava, I think great earnings. Definitely something I'm going to be watching today. A lot of upgrades out there on Kava today. But there is a key rejection point that I don't like, and that's $80. So for now, not going to look to long Kava near this $80 level. You can see 80, 80, right? Very clear rejections at 80 here on Kava. So be careful of that $80 level on Kava. To the downside, I'd say you can move to that 76.50. That would be my next level to watch for a potential long at 76.50. That is lows, 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 and lows. That is also the daily 20 SMA. And Kava had a lot of volume yesterday. You can see that right here. Look at this down here. I know you can't see that too well. But a lot of volume yesterday out of Kava. More than, this entire week. So I would say 76.50 is your next level to watch down here on Kava. That's probably where it could fade down to. That's where it held post-earnings. You can see right here. That's going to be an interesting spot on Kava. Keep an eye on that 76.50. Coinbase, right at the 238 level. This is going to be huge today on Coinbase. What does Coinbase do today? What's Buttcoin doing today? What's the Buttcoin doing? Buttcoin, sort of getting stuck under 69 on Buttcoin. You can see right here. Right, look at this. Sort of getting stuck under that 69 level on Buttcoin. So be careful on coin if Bitcoin is under 69. Be careful on coin to continue higher. You're probably going to need that. You're going to need that Bitcoin strength, right? That's always key for Coinbase. But for now, let's see what happens at this 238, right? 238 highs, 238 highs, 238 highs, and look at the support that's stepping in at 238. So 238 could be a level that holds coin higher. It's very possible, right? You can see right there. Now, if Coinbase fails back under that, that's when I'd look for that sort of failure move, okay? 238 is your key level to watch on Coinbase today. Let's go to Carvana. Man, I do wish I held this a little bit, but hey, congratulations, guys. We definitely caught a piece of this. We were talking about this last week. There is downside on Carvana, guys. There's a huge gap here, and Carvana, in my opinion, is not a good company. Okay, that's just my personal opinion. I'd have to do more research. Let me not say that in front of 2,000 people, but I don't think. Let me say it this way. I don't think Carvana should be up as much as it is off these lows, especially with the way it's gapped higher. Right? Look at these gaps on Carvana. So you have a huge gap here. You have a huge gap here. I think there is definitely opportunity to fade some of this move, and I mean right now that is a living proof of it. We got that gap fill move, and it's starting to work very nicely. So I think there's room back to 94 on Carvana, back to this where it gapped up from at 94. I think that's your target on the gap fill. All right, if we go to the hourly chart, we can see this thing's just sort of getting demolished here in this gap. I'd say it trades back to this 94 in pretty relatively quick fashion. So 94, that's your gap fill. That's something I'd be watching. That could be very interesting today on Carvana. If we could get a pop, which I don't know if we're going to, I would be surprised if we got some kind of a pop. But if we did, I'm sort of watching this right here, just to let you know. If we do get a pop, I'm going to watch this 105 area, okay? Yeah, let's go to the solar names. Enphase, FSLR, some of the solar names. Obviously, Enphase, I took it long yesterday on a break and retest of the previous day highs, which actually turned out to be a pretty decent entry. Right, we can see previous day highs here, 127. Did hold up relatively well. I mean, it did hold up all day, right? So I stayed in Enphase as it maintained above that previous day high. But unfortunately, we did fail below it, under that 127 level. So Enphase getting weak under 127. The level that we're going to be looking for a pullback here on Enphase is the 124, right here. 124 is your next level to watch. You can see right here. 124, previous high, low. I'd be watching the 124 today. If N phase can hold the 124, then we could possibly see this thing maintain. If N phase breaks under the 124, that's where I think you could get some weakness here. So I'd say N phase 124 is your main watch. FSLR, I would be watching FSLR under 270 or holding 270, right? Look how clear this is. 270. If you can hold this, then I like that long. If you fail under 270, there is a very low volume area here, right? Look at that. So 270 on FSLR could be something to very much watch today. Definitely watch that on FSLR 270. Keep an eye on that level. Apple. Oh, 190.76 is rejecting again. Look at this. Yeah. So 190.76 was a level we looked for the hold yesterday, which it did temporarily, but we can see now it is getting stuck under this level, right? Look at these reactions here. So I'd say Apple 190.76, 190.75. That's a key level to watch there. Saber, thanks for subscribing. I can actually see who subscribed here. That's cool. Neela, thanks for the sub. No hesitation. Appreciate that, brother. Appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Thank you for that. That's pretty cool. I can see subscribers on Streamlabs. Yeah, I mean, if you watched the live stream and you took the Nasdaq short right there, there you go. I mean, I just gave you a 80-point Nasdaq drop. That's 80 points on one contract. That's $1,600. Can't complain about that. That's pretty nice there. So who took that? Pele? I don't know if that's Pele or Peel. Pele. Not sure how to pronounce that. I'll just call you Yang. Yang took the Nasdaq. Very nice, Yang. Hell yeah, man. Way to pay attention. Way to trust the levels. Way to take that trade. That's beautiful stuff. All right. Yeah, last one I'll probably do here. Maybe I'll go over Netflix as well. Is Meta. 473. Pretty clear, guys. Same level as yesterday. There's really no changes here. 473. Amazon, there's no changes. It's in the same trend. Same trend. 180. Right? This thing just continues to stay weak. 180 is your next level here. Google, really don't have much. Google's been a pretty sloppy, slow trade up at these highs. I'd say look to see if it stays under 177.30 there. Microsoft sitting right at that 427 level. We've talked about that one. Oh yeah, let's close it out with Dell. Dell's actually holding pretty well, but the problem is Dell has earnings tomorrow, right? Yeah, Dell has earnings tomorrow, so be a little bit cautious on that. But man, what a hold, right? Look at that hold. And yesterday, what did we talk about? We talked about that hold at 162, did we not? Right? And look at that long. Okay? Yesterday on Dell, all you had to do was trust the long, right? All you had to do was trust the pullback. We talked about this high. We talked about these levels. Look at that yesterday long at 162.20. I have not touched this chart since yesterday pre-market, right? And you can see how well levels are respected there. Dell, long off our key level yesterday, worked perfectly. And then today, look at some of the reactions at this key level, 164. So 164, 162, definitely some demand down here on Dell. It is holding. Dell is holding well. All right, guys, let's get a quick peek at that NASDAQ real quick. So what's the key right now, guys? What's the key? We talked about it already. If we are under that 18,840, right? Not in love with the longs, okay? But here's the thing you got to be careful of, right? Here's what do you have to be careful of here? Got to be careful of chasing the downside now, right? Because where are we getting close to? We are getting close to the demand, right? 18,740. We are getting close to the QQQ demand down at 450, 450. I mean, not close yet, but that's the next level to watch, right? And we broke under that 456.30 level that we talked about, right? Look at this. What could be the watch here now? So we rejected yesterday's lows. We have a clear rejection there. We're under this pre-market low. Look at this, right? That could be nice. Okay. ES, where are we at? Okay, we're right at the 52.85, right? We're right at the 52.85. So here we go. So let's zoom in on this, if I can. So we're right at the 52.85 now. That was our short into the 52.85. So watch out for that 52.85 on ES. Big there. And SPY, like we talked about, guys. Like we talked about 20 minutes ago. Rejections of the 427, 427.50 level, causing downside. Very nice. As long as you're under this zone, I am not in love with that upside today. 525 would be my target. All right. That's all I got, guys. If you could, I'd appreciate if you can press the like button for me. Continue to grow the channel. If you guys subscribe, that would be awesome as well. See God subscribing. Appreciate you, See God. Jackson Mitchell. Jackson Michelle. Michelle. From Dodgeball. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate the sub. I'll put you guys on the screen. Look at this. Right there. Jackson. See God. No hesitation. Neela. Saber. Appreciate that, guys. That's about it. Press that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Good luck today. And I will see you tomorrow.